2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and Councilmember Buell is working on a security detail this evening and won't be able to attend. So with that, I see Carl's there. Hello, Carl. Good to see you. And we have a member of the audience is here as well. Okay, I will call the West Richland remote meeting to order at 6 p.m. And before we call the roll, I'll ask Stephanie to read our meeting ground rules for our virtual meetings, if you would, please.
Please make sure the name shown at the bottom of your video view is the name you would like the facilitator to use. You can change this by right-clicking on the 3 dots in the upper corner of your video view and clicking Rename. You can choose to leave this as the name for all of the upcoming meetings or just this one instance. If you have an unstable internet connection, please also connect through the phone. That will allow you to continue to participate even if you lose internet connection. If you call in after you have joined on video, click the arrow between mute and video, and there is a button for switch to phone audio. Clicking this button provides a participant ID. Please call in with the participant ID, as then your phone is associated with your video. We will mute everyone until a public hearing. When the mayor calls the public hearing to order, if you raise your hand, he will call on you and you will be unmuted. To virtually raise your hand, click on Participants and then click on Raise Hand. If you are participating by phone only, press *9 to raise your hand.
Okay, thank you. And will you please call the roll, Stephanie?
Yes. Brent Gary?
Here.
Richard Bloom?
Here.
Fred Brink?
Here.
Gail Brown?
Here.
Rich Buell asked to be excused. David Fetto?
Here.
Kate Moran?
Present.
John Smart?
Here.
And may I have a motion to excuse Councilman Buell this evening, please?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilman Smart and second by Councilmember Moran. All in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried unanimous. Thank you. And with that, if Stephanie will mute everyone, I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance when everybody's ready. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All righty. Okay, thank you, Council. So, Council, the agenda is before you this evening, and we did receive word that our first presenter this evening for the Two Rivers Behavioral Health Recovery Center, Lee Kerr, had some conflicting scheduling this evening, so he's going to go ahead and reschedule us for January. So with that, may I have a motion to approve the revised agenda this evening?
I move to approve the agenda as revised, Mr. Mayor. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you. And with that, we'll move on to our presentations this evening. We have Chief Majetic's going to have two presentations for us this evening. The first one's obviously the most important, and he's going to introduce our new police officer this evening. So with that, Chief, I will go ahead and let you take it away, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, council and audience. Tonight, it's my privilege to honor our newest, or to introduce our newest officer. If council remembers, we had a retirement about in the fall. Alan Jenkins retired, and since that time, we launched a search for his replacement. The good news is we went through several, or a lot, more than several, 5 lateral candidates. None of them really cut the mustard until we ran across our newest hire, Brooke Connor Air. His first name is Brooke, but he prefers to go by Connor, so I will refer to him as Connor. Connor is 28 years old. He lives with his wife Courtney in Richland. They've been married for almost 2 years. Connor comes to us from the Columbia County Sheriff's Department, where he served 2.5 years. And prior to that, he was besides some variety of jobs, he was a U.S. Army veteran. The neat thing about Connor, and really drew me to him, is Connor's name first popped up on our radar screen over 2 years ago when he first started exploring getting into law enforcement. At that time, we did not have any openings. Connor, from the get-go, wanted to be a West Richland police officer. This is where he wanted to work. He lives in the Tri-Cities, but this is the agency he wanted to land with. So unfortunately, like I said, at that time, we did not have an opening. Connor became a police officer, was employed as a chief deputy of the Columbia Sheriff's Department until after putting in some time there, he again approached the West Richland Police Department. Fortunately, we had an opening. So I think we're a match made in heaven. Connor's going to be a great addition, and we're happy to have him. And he's going to be in the current the FTO program for at least 2 months before hitting the road. We'll get him up to City Hall when we can to introduce himself. And I believe we have him on board. Connor?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and introduce yourself.
I appreciate the kind words, sir. So like the chief said, I'm Connor Air. I'm super excited to be with West Richland and on the team. It's an honor to finally be a part of their team. Like the chief said, I've been honestly trying to be a part of West Richland's team for some time now. And, it's taken me a couple of years, 2-3 years, but I'm finally here on the path that I wanted to be on. And like I said, I'm super excited and I'm honored to be here. So thank you, sir. And I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Connor. And I had the opportunity to sit down and visit with Connor for quite some time, actually, and had a great conversation. And I can certainly see his enthusiasm that he has for the city of West Richland, the community. And he talked very, very highly of the team that he has to work with. So he's excited to gain some knowledge from the experience that we have with our police department and our force, and carry on the tradition of a great police facility that we have here. So welcome, Connor. Looking
Sure.
forward to having you around for a long time.
I appreciate it.
Okay, perfect. And then with that, we will go ahead and move on to our next presentation. Chief Majetic is going to make a presentation of the ORV regulations that were adopted by Kennewick recently. And Chief, you got it. Go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council remembers last council meeting, I said that I would look into the wheeled all-terrain vehicle ordinance, not only that Kennewick has, but the possibility of implementing something similar to this ordinance in West Richland, especially after council received a large amount of communications expressing an interest in allowing this to occur. So I'm hoping to give you a quick presentation to give you the nuts and bolts of how this would work, not only in accordance with state law, but how it would work specifically here in West Richland. Let me try that again. Froze. There we go. Okay, first of all, we're not talking about all-terrain vehicles necessarily. We're talking specifically about wheeled all-terrain vehicles. Those are the vehicles that we are targeting, and those are the ones that citizens have expressed interest in. I guess the best way to describe them would be razor vehicle type vehicles. We'll get into a further description here in a minute. The RCWs by the state does authorize use of wheeled all-terrain vehicles on city streets, and within the city limits, only with that local municipality approving such an ordinance to allow that. Currently, I checked with all three cities, Richland, Pasco, and Kennewick. Kennewick is the only one that currently has this ordinance in place. It has been a little over a year since they passed the ordinance to their city council. And I did contact the Kennewick Police Department, and they've had absolutely zero problems since its ordinance has been enacted. As a matter of fact, the traffic sergeant, which gave us the majority of the information, stated that he was shocked. He thought for sure he was against this ordinance, and before it had passed, and he anticipated issues. And after it was passed on August 24th last year, zero problems. The other cities, Richland and Pasco, also have been approached by similar people of interest for WATVs. And from what they told me is Pasco, as soon as the COVID crisis is over, they're going to revisit this. All I know about Richland is they said that the mayor has been approached, it has been mentioned at council, and I'm assuming it also will be taken up at a future date. Now, what exactly is a wheeled all-terrain vehicle? The basically has very specific designations and criteria to be classified as such. And these are the kind of criteria that you want specifically in your ordinance. Not only the type of tires, you'd have to have 4 tires, 20,000 pounds square inch or less. They have to be a width of 74 inches, less than 3,000 pounds, a wheelbase, basically from front to back, measured from the center of the wheel, 120 inches or less. It has a minimum width of 50 inches, at least 900 pounds, and has a minimum wheelbase. Now, it seems kind of silly on the surface to see all these numbers, but basically what it's doing, it's really restricting the type of vehicle that you can have because there are a lot of off-road type vehicles that aren't necessarily classified as wheeled all-terrain vehicles. So this specific criteria really does restrict to the type of vehicle that you mean when you're trying to apply an ordinance to allow vehicles on the roadway. It also designates that to be classified as a wheeled all-terrain vehicle, it has to have an actual steering wheel, and it has to have non-straddle type seats, open seating area with the passenger seat side by side. And that's why sometimes you also see them referred to as side by sides. And again, just to reinforce, the traditional four-wheelers and motorcycles and the dirt bikes and things of that nature are not considered wheeled all-terrain vehicles by those definitions. And also I have this slide up just to mention, I believe it was one of the council members that forwarded me an email by a constituent supporting ordinance and mentioned golf carts. Well, generally golf carts don't really fall under the criteria for a wheeled all-terrain vehicle with a standard size golf cart. It'd have to be extremely modified in order to meet the statute. There's restrictions that would be put in place as well. The helmets would be required in a vehicle unless it was an enclosed passenger compartment or equipped with roll bars. Seat belts would be required, and passenger less 16-year age would have to be restrained according to RCW. That's to include children that are permitted to be in a vehicle above 5 years of age would have to be in a booster seat if that was appropriate. There would be no passengers under 5 years old. The speeds would be capped out at the vehicle would not be allowed to operate on any city roadway with the speed limit posted in excess of 35 miles an hour. The vehicles would be subject to tow and impound just like any other vehicle. Must have proof of insurance. The equipment requirements would be like any traditional vehicle dictated under RCW 46. They must comply with all registration requirements according to RCW, and they must obey all the rules of the road, similar to what any other vehicle would have to abide by. Prohibited uses for ordinance of this sort, they may not be operated in a negligent manner or unsafe manner. Basically, the rules of the road still apply. You cannot have all-terrain vehicle with a modified seating. It has to be one that was actually designed for the vehicle and designated to carry a person. No person may operate it immediately next to another WATV. Basically, it's next to each other in the same lane. It's unlawful to operate on the sidewalk or any other area that is unlawful to operate a normal motor vehicle. It's unlawful to operate a WATV in a city park or bike path or trails or walkways unless it's a city maintenance staff or authorized vehicle. And it is unlawful to operate on a bike trail, walking path or bicycle lane. So basically the restrictions would be, as far as operating on the city street, would be exactly the same as a motor vehicle. With these ordinances, like Kennewick, for example, they have a recommended penalty, a monetary penalty not to exceed $250, provided that the conduct does not arise to a criminal offense. So they would be subject to criminal charges such as DUI, driving license suspended, or any other criminal traffic, as well as any kind of equipment violations. But the unique thing about the wheeled all-terrain vehicle ordinance is that if, let's say, for example, we stopped them for one of the example of the violations I've given you as far as prohibited use, we could issue them an infraction for $250 or whatever dollar amount we settle on, and it would be under a West Richland municipal code. So the fine for such a violation would be routed differently than if we cited under a RCW. The RCW, if you remember correctly, we have a traffic stop or give somebody a ticket. We get about $5 out of a $176 ticket. When you cite under a municipal code, we virtually get all the funds with the exception of some minor court costs. And again, that was a quick and short version of everything, but I think I covered the high points. Does council or the mayor or anybody else have any questions I can answer?
Thank you, Chief. Anybody have any questions for the chief? Kate?
Yes. Thank you, and thank you for all of the effort you put into this research. I'm wondering, Chief, just to make sure, what you're saying is if we were to follow something similar to what you had and also follow the rules that the state has given per the RCW, you would not be able to have a golf cart unless it was heavily modified, and you would also not be able to drive it along the bike path that we have, the wide blacktop bike path that we have. Is that correct?
Correct. Now, as far, yeah, I mean, basically where you can drive a car, it's restricted. That's where you could drive this vehicle on the city street and operate it in the same manner. So obviously a regular car or motor vehicle wouldn't be permitted on the bike path, and the WATV wouldn't as well. So those would not change. And it's been specifically spelled out in the potential ordinance. Now, as far as golf carts, again, if you remember what the width requirements are, the standard golf cart is a 4x8 in size. Their width is 39 inches, so it wouldn't fall within the sizing limitation. So it would have to be a fairly large golf cart modified to a degree to meet the requirements to fall under the WATV definition.
Okay. And then I'm also wondering, are there any roads specifically that you can think of in West Richland that they would not be able to be on? I would imagine Keene and Van Giesen in some parts. Is that correct? And are there others?
Well, Keene, okay, again, this is a shortened version. The extended version of the ordinance would allow WATV to cross a roadway that has a speed limit in excess of 35 miles an hour if it was an intersection. So you are able to cross, for example, sections of Keene where it's 45 miles an hour from one of the side streets that are less than 35. So you can do that to immediately cross, but you're correct. It would really landlock use of a WATV within the city of West Richland, because you figure all the boundaries outside of West Richland, whether you go up Dallas or if you continue on down Keene where it gets into the 45 mile an hour zone, or on Van Giesen. If you head either direction on Van Giesen, toward Benton City or in Richland, you're landlocked in West Richland. So it would exclusively have to be used within the city streets, because all the streets are 35 or below.
All right. And then with Van Giesen, that is, I'm still trying to remember, is that considered a city street in some parts, or is it all just the state?
And the way the RCW's written, Kate, is that the state's already authorized that as long as you're licensed and have to meet certain requirements, you can operate it on a state roadway with a speed limit below 35 miles an hour. However, they said if the city street or roadway falls within a certain jurisdiction, in this case, West Richland, we would have to adopt the ordinance in order for people to legally operate the vehicle on that same roadway. So they'd be covered by actually our ordinance and the state ordinance.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Councilman Bloom?
Oh, I'm unmuted. My question is, with what you were saying, but I'm not certain, are all the streets, I mean, we have some county pockets. As I read it, the county hasn't authorized this, correct?
They did.
Yeah, county does. But again, we only can authorize on the city streets within the city boundaries. So.
Well, so I was just within the county pockets. My thought was so they could, with the expansion of the, so does the county have the 35-mile-an-hour speed limit?
Yes, the RCW is the one that first establishes the 35 mile an hour, and all the similar ordinances adopted by counties and cities, within my knowledge, are the same.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Councilman Smart?
Yes. Chief, again, thanks for the presentation. It looks great. And I'm glad to see our council's response to our citizens' request to look into this. My question has to do with tires. I had heard, I vaguely recall somewhere somebody talking about how the tires needed to be, I think what you've presented here is that they have to be low pressure tires of 20 PSI or less. Are there other specifications for road tires required for these vehicles when they're used on a road, or can they basically run any low pressure tire?
No, it's any low pressure tire.
Okay.
They go by pounds per square inch, not certain types.
And is there a fender requirement on these in order to ride on public roads?
No.
Okay. Is that a I mean, I don't drive non-stock vehicles, so I don't know. Is there still a requirement for fenders over tires for standard vehicles? I see a lot of.
Yeah, usually you would have mud flap requirements, but when I reviewed all the WATV language, both in RCW and the adapted ordinance that we have on the books now, there's no mention specifically of mud flaps. But I will say that all the other vehicle requirements are present.
Okay. Yeah, so that's actually one thing I can see that, especially in wintertime, slush on the road, stuff like this, that I could imagine a potential complaint there if the operators aren't being considerate of their fellow drivers on the road. So I'm hopeful that won't happen. And I don't know if any of our audience tonight are WATV drivers or not, but I would hope that when we have communication with folks that are, that we would, caution them to, as you've said, obey the rules of the road, and that includes maybe being considerate of the folks behind them. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Brink?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chief, I know that the ordinance establishes a maximum speed limit, but just following what Councilmember Smart said, does Kennewick have any minimum speed limit? And I ask that question because I could see drivers of traditional vehicles perhaps getting a little frustrated if a wheeled all-terrain vehicle is traveling significantly under the speed limit. Might cause them to try to pass in unsafe circumstances and so forth. Just wanted to pursue that with you.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Brink. That's a really good question. People have a understanding or belief that there's a law that prevents people from driving under the speed limit, and there really isn't. What the law actually dictates, if you're driving below the speed limit in such a manner that you start backing up, I believe the number is up to 3 cars. And then that's actually a violation of law, and you can pull them over for that. So there are RCWs to govern that. With that being the case, as I explained, the rules of the road covered in the RCWs would apply to WATVs as well. So in this case, that law would apply as well.
All right, thank you, Chief Machetic.
Ms. Moran, did you have your hand up again? Okay, go ahead.
What Mayor Pro Tem Brink was asking raised some other questions in my head. I'm wondering, would there be requirements for these WATVs to have something like a slow moving vehicle placard on the back of them? Like, I'm sure that most of you have seen Amish buggies that have that on there. Or is there a thing that says that they cannot drive on the side of the road when they do have people that are backing up behind them? That made me get a little concerned about if they're driving too slow and there are people backing up, what are their options? Just to pull over, wait until people pass, and then go back on?
Well, yeah, but I'm a little bit puzzled by the line of questioning in the first place. WATVs are capable of great speeds. They're not slower vehicles. So I don't know why a WATV would drive any slower than any other motor vehicle on the roadway. So I really don't think it's a concern. They're quite fast.
Okay.
Yeah, my side by side, which I'll never take it to that speed, speedometer has a number of 120 mile an hour. 1,000 cc's horsepower to weight ratio. They're quite quick. So I don't think we'll probably have just quite the opposite if we have any issues, Ms. Moran.
Fair
Mr.
enough.
Smart.
I must plead ignorance to WATVs. The most I know about them is, well, I guess since it's not, but golf carts. So.
Yeah, it's definitely not a golf cart. Yeah, think of a dune buggy.
Okay. Yeah, in my mind, I was also thinking gator. So.
Yeah. So if council gets this taken care of, then it's on the books. I'll swing by and take you for a spin. Councilman Smart, one more time.
Yeah, just to follow up on Kate's question, it does bring up a good point. We see tractors which do drive slowly on the shoulders of roads like Van Giesen between Richland and West Richland. And my understanding is they are required to have a placard or orange triangle or something like that. And I presume that that's legal for them to do so. You see it all the time. Would a WATV be able to drive on the shoulder on a road that it is not allowed to otherwise drive on?
No, and there's going to be language specifically in the ordinance that actually addresses that.
Okay.
Are forbidden. And as far as placards and things of that nature, you have to remember they'll have license plates, they'll have brake lights, they'll have tail light. I mean, just all the lighting and equipment, like a regular motor vehicle.
I was just thinking if they tried to act like a tractor.
No, there's specific statutes for farm equipment and transport that covers that. Again, the WATV would be governed exactly the same as any other motor vehicle.
Okay.
All right. Very good. Thank you, Chief. Much appreciated. Stephanie, I see no more hands up. Do you? Okay.
So I just need to get some feedback, Mr. Mayor, on whether council has a consensus, whether to continue to pursue this and maybe start working on a draft ordinance for review.
Yeah, I think that's consensus that I've heard both this conversation and last one. So yeah, we'll continue to move forward, Chief, and have conversations within staff here and put it together.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you, Chief. And the next presentation, it lists the Community Development Director, Eric Mendenhall, to present this particular item on the agenda this evening, but I'm going to go ahead and take a swing at it. And so I see I have Carl Dye from TriDeck. Carl, welcome. Tracy Zhao. Tracy, welcome. Thank you for taking some time out this evening. And I just want to talk a little bit about the difficult times that we've experienced this year. And during these difficult times, it's always a pleasure to have your friends and partners join in to help you in a heavy lift of heavy load. And TriDeck has certainly been one of those partners. It's been able to, and we've been able to count on them in these hard times and in the need of support. And tonight we have, as I mentioned, we have Carl and Tracy here with us from TriDeck. These two individuals, as well as their team, have stepped up to provide a much needed help to our business community. They developed in quite a short order, I might add, a method for our business owners to apply and receive rescuing care funds to help keep many businesses afloat. They've been able to provide this support in a timely manner that's allowed us to issue monies to our businesses rapidly. We would like to present an award to Carl and Tracy and their entire TriDeck team for their care, dedication, and timeless hours and hard work for our community during these hard times. We truly thank you so much for your efforts, your passion to bring forth the needed CARES funds to our community, and we couldn't have done it without you. So with that, I am going to make sure that you have this presented to you in your office and your staff, and I will go ahead and read this to you. Quite heavy, could be used as a blunt instrument, but we won't have any mad people hold this, right, Carl? It says, in recognition to TriDeck for assisting our business, thank you, the city of West Richland. $64,000 plus. Stephanie probably has the number. I think it's even higher than that, was distributed to our businesses here in the city of West Richland. One particular case, when I presented a check to the daycare center, the gal could not social distance any longer. She was so overwhelmed with the emotions. She grabbed me and started crying. It was a very emotional time for myself as well as her. A lot of other individuals were very appreciative of the efforts that TriDeck put forth in conjunction working with the city of West Richland. So I thank you, Carl and Tracy, and I'd love to have you speak to this particular effort in which you've not only helped us, but other cities within the community as well.
Mr. Mayor, I might go first, and I just have to say on behalf of TriDeck and our whole team, thank you, West Richland, for giving us the chance to partner with the West Richland team. It was really an honor. You know, we did similar work for Benton County and for Franklin County, and then worked with Department of Commerce on some different grants. And, you know, my words need to be brief because Tracy and Tiffany Burke and Laura Ward from our team really did all the work. And Tracy did so much for all of us. I need to make sure that, you know, the accolades and the awards, maybe we can put it on our desk when we get the office up and back up, can go to Tracy, because they really put in untold hours and really came to bat. But I'll just say, you know, again, on behalf of TriDeck, thank you for this recognition. We stand ready to partner with West Richland on any issues that come up like this. And I think it's a great example for all of us of what's so great about our collective community is that we've got a long history of coming together to overcome pretty big obstacles. And I think this CARES grant program was a good example of that. So we really appreciate the recognition and really, truly appreciate the partnership. Thank you.
Thank you, Carl. Tracy.
You know, I echo Carl's comments. It was a true pleasure and honor to be able to help West Richland businesses, to be able to help Tri-Cities businesses. It was definitely challenging, and Stephanie understands what we all went through because she had her own part that she had to do, and she was amazing to work with. We were fortunate. Tiffany Burke did a lot of the, on TriDeck staff, did a lot of the work for the West Richland businesses, and we just heard so much pain and suffering from these companies, and to be able to grant them these funds, it was huge. I mean, it was life-saving for so many businesses. And like the mayor said, these people are so appreciative of everything that we've done for you all. And so thank you for allowing TriDeck to be able to help out with these businesses. And yeah, no crying. Sorry, I get really emotional and it's really, yeah. So thank you. I hope that you know from the bottom of my heart, we were so grateful to help these businesses. And I think all of us, we might not be first responders, but we truly are the first line of being able to help these businesses. So thank you for giving us this opportunity.
You're welcome. And crying is okay at TriDeck, but crying is not okay in baseball, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Phew.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
I can't, I need to also thank Stephanie. Stephanie was solid in this, working with Tracy and the TriDeck team. Eric was also involved in this. So from the city of West Richland, it was Stephanie and Eric that took it. Stephanie told me right up front when we first started looking at how much staff time this would take. She's the one that grabbed the ball and made it happen. So Stephanie, thank you so much from the staff side here, as well as our businesses. And then the partnership will be valued for many, many, many years to come, Carl and Tracy. So thank you again, and we'll get your award over to you, and look forward to many more years of hopefully economic development opportunities. And Tracy, we got some things we got to look at. We got a place down there in California we got to get up here, right?
Yep. I
Yep.
definitely want to get down there and do that. So as soon as we can do some traveling, we'll head down there, because I think there's some great growth opportunities in West Richland.
Yeah, there's so many things that we talk about at the TriDeck board meetings. I can't tell anybody because they're all secret. And they got code names and stuff like that. Carl comes up with some pretty cool code names, you know. So, but yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it. So if you're more than welcome to stick around and enjoy the rest of our festive evening, or we'll allow you to go ahead and bail right now. So thanks again, TriDeck and staff. Council, is there anything that you guys want to say to TriDeck? Let me throw it out there if anybody. Kate, go ahead.
I was just saying thank you in sign language. But I thank you both so much, and just for TriDeck's efforts to help the businesses. They've been suffering a lot, and this helps them immensely. So thank you.
Perfect. All right. I think the sentiment's pretty much across the board with council. Thanks again, TriDeck. Look forward to you
Thanks,
later.
Mr. Mayor. Yep. Next time we're back to city council,
Thank
it'll be to talk about economic development. So we appreciate it.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Merry Christmas.
Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas to you. Be safe.
You too.
Thanks.
Okay, council, the consent agenda is now before you. And on the consent agenda, we have approved payment of the bills, approve the minutes of the regular meeting of December 1st, 2020, and a special meeting December 3rd, 2020. And a motion to authorize the mayor to execute an amendment in terms of sales and purchase agreement with 7HA Family LLC. Motion to authorize the mayor to execute TIB application grant contract. And a motion to authorize the mayor to execute phase 2 contract for the new police facility. And a resolution 7620 authorizing the mayor to execute an interlocal agreement regarding Quad City water rights mitigation model and operating procedures with City of Richland, Kennewick, and Pasco. And a resolution 7720 setting a public hearing for the CB Group access easement vacation. And is there anyone from the audience who would like to address the items on the consent agenda this evening? If you would, you could raise your virtual hand or *9 if you're by way of phone. Stephanie, I do not see anyone. Do you?
I do not.
Okay, perfect. So with that, council, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I have a motion. Do I have a second, please?
I will second it, Mr. Mayor.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
I had a question. Did we already make the payment to the port so that we can do the transfer here?
That won't come till January meeting. We're not there yet.
So we're not actually doing the sales agreement that we got on here.
This is for Roscoe. You want to jump in here?
This extends the purchase and sale agreement to May 1st of 2021 to allow us to work through those items.
Not to do it, just do it.
Nothing changed. All that's changing is the closing date because we won't be able to take care of that before the end of this year.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay, motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, council. So moving on to ordinances, resolutions, motions, and public hearings. Item 7A and B are public hearing and a resolution vacating utility easement for Mooney's. Alicia will present her first staff report this evening. There we go. Perfect.
Okay. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight, we would like to ask you to pass a resolution authorizing the vacation of part of the 33-foot utility easement for the property in question. If you'll turn to your agenda packets, attachment 3 will have a vicinity map. The parcel in question is located at 5900 Ironton Drive. It's located in section 6 of Willamette Heights. And it has those typical easements that we see a lot in section 6. The property owners, Brett and Tracy Mooney, wish to vacate a portion of the easement on the southwest and north boundary. If you'll look at attachment 2, that'll show you exactly what they're asking. And you'll see that there's a 10-foot easement that would remain as both access and utility. We sent out the information to other agencies asking for comments. There were no objections. It was approved by Public Works and by Benton County Fire District number 4. In reviewing the application, we found that it would not unduly jeopardize health, safety, welfare, or the public good, and that the easement no longer serves any useful public purpose. We recommend that the council pass resolution 7820 to vacate that portion of the easement indicated.
Thank you, Alicia. With that, I will go ahead and open the public hearing at 6:42. If you'd like to provide comments, please raise your virtual hand or press *9, and we will recognize you and clerk will unmute you. I do not see anybody raised hands or starred up there. Stephanie, you?
I do not.
Okay, very good. With that, I will close the public hearing at 6:43. And for the resolution 7820 Mooney easement vacation, do I have a motion?
I move to pass resolution 7820, the Mooney easement vacation.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Okay, very good. Thank you. So with that, any questions of Alicia? Conversation amongst yourself?
Yes, I have a question. This is relatively unique because the submission looks like they went out and paid for a survey. Are we requiring a survey on these vacations?
Eric? No.
He just went and did it, right?
Self-satisfaction, I guess.
Their property, so that's what they've done. It wasn't something that we required.
Okay, I was just wondering if, because the previous ones we've been getting haven't had specific surveys on them. Just an added expense he put on himself.
Councilman Smart?
Yes, I just wanted to ask that is the 16-foot, the north boundary has a 16-foot remaining easement. Is that correct, or is it supposed to be 10? Am I reading that right? on the map, on Exhibit A?
Love the map. On the northern boundary,
It's,
would leave just the 10-foot.
it's a little bit blurry on my copy here, so.
Yeah.
It indicates, I believe it looks like 16 feet. Does anybody else see that, or am I just dreaming?
That's
here?
what I see, and seems to be proportioned that way as well.
Yeah.
It is 16 foot along the north property line.
Yes.
It would retain 16 foot along the north, 10 on the east and west.
Okay.
And then Ironton, it just retains the remainder of the 33 feet that has not been dedicated for Ironton Drive.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we have all of the details straight. So otherwise, looks good to me.
Okay. Anyone else? Very good. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried unanimous. Thank you, council. Moving on to item 7C, it's an ordinance amending the 2019-2020 biennial budget. And this evening, we'll ask Erin to present her staff report. Erin.
Hello. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. Tonight is the final budget amendment for the 2019-2020 biennial budget. A lot of this is cleanup as we went through. So in the general fund, we had more revenue, especially associated with the development and building activity. That revenue also had corresponding expenses in the engineering services as far as reviewing plans and such. So this recognizes both the increase in revenue as well as increasing the appropriation for those engineering services. There's also an increase to the city clerk appropriations for the salaries and benefits, and this has to do with staffing 2 city clerks simultaneously during the transition of our previous city clerk that retired, as well as a vacation cash out and sick time cash out when she departed. She was a longtime employee. This is also a transfer out for the street fund. This will help with the shortfall of the shared revenues, especially with the motor vehicle fuel tax. And we'll see that here in a second, a little bit further. And the other transfer out to the library fund for the Mid-Columbia Library contract costs, which I'll go over a little bit more detail here in a second. So next we have the Fund 005. This is kind of new for us to worry about the budget of these items as far as the performance and maintenance bond. Before, this was all in our Fund 631 that we don't budget, which is basically we're holding money that doesn't really belong to us, and then we turn around and refund it. Well, the state changed the way we account for these, so we cannot have them in that agency type fund anymore and have to have them in a general type fund. So we've had a lot of maintenance bonds coming in. So we have a lot more maintenance bonds going out. And so we need to kind of do a little housekeeping on that and true that up. In the street fund, we do have a little bit of additional revenue to recognize as far as charges for services. So again, this goes with development. We're out there putting up street signs and those such things where we charge for the service to the developer. And so with that, we've also had an increase in some of the expenditures along with that, as far as salaries and benefits of the personnel doing those services. In addition, we have some aging snow equipment that needed additional repairs prior to our snow season this year, which hopefully we won't see too much of, but that would be the professional services and the snow and ice. The Criminal Justice Fund, we do have an additional transfer out. Those transfers cover our PST officers and associated expenses. And just based on estimates for the 2 years, so 19 and 20, we're going to need about 25,000 additional to cover those, which gets transferred to the general fund. Library fund, we're having a transfer in from the general fund, and this has to do with covering additional costs for the Mid-Columbia Library, which has to do with their contract, which we'll be looking at in the coming couple months. The Irrigation Fund, we did have a little bit of additional revenue that's not recognized in regards to well 6, which is the Belmont school. And then bringing that on board, we had additional salaries and benefits that we're recognizing and kind of truing up here. The other one is the Solid Waste Fund. So this one is a pretty simple fund, but the more revenue that we collect, the more we spend with our contract with EDS, as well as our taxes to the state and internally. So all of this does kind of trues up for the year. So this ordinance amendment would authorize the increase of the 2019-2020 appropriation in the amount of $1,337,800, as well as recognize an increase in total resources in the amount of $1,585,000, bringing a revised budget total to $86,373,111.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Council, any questions? Let's get a kind of a motion to approve this budget amendment first.
I move to approve ordinance 4120, the 2019-2020 budget amendment.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Council, any questions of Aaron in regards to this agenda item?
I have one.
Go ahead, Gail. Your hand's still up from
I
last go
actually, that's a new one. I actually talked to Aaron about the city clerk, but I was looking at the engineers and I thought they were all professional services. We lost an engineer that we haven't replaced. This isn't all overtime, is it?
No, it's not. You'll see there's actually different codes for overtime. This is, a lot of it has to do with them coding their time. Specifically, when they bring in plans, they're coding their time to the engineering services rather than a project they're working on. So this has a direct correlation with them working on things like plans. Roscoe might be able to pipe in a little bit more.
Yeah. Because it's almost like 200,000 that got added.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Typically, we're budgeting for about 2 subdivisions a year, revenue and expenses, but we had probably upwards of 12. So the more development comes in, the more revenue that comes in, the more expenditures that we have out of that fund. So that's what you're seeing, both the increase in revenue and expenditures associated with new development.
I'm just wondering about the salaries. If you don't have any more people and you're actually down 1 people, I just don't get the.
Well,
100% of our staff is not charged to engineering services. They're water, sewer, streets, parks, across the board and charged into capital projects. That line item is just when they're working on new development, a subdivision, a commercial development, that they charge their time to it. We plan for 2 subdivisions, and we had more than that. So that's why you see more revenue coming into the general fund, but you also have associated expenditures.
Okay, so the
So-
water step we wouldn't see, you're just charging more over to the,
It's a wash. It's a
Yeah.
wash.
right?
So rather than the like water fund picking up the salaries, it's now the general fund.
Where does the
It- it-
water money go?
It stays in the, it stays in
Stays
the
in the
water.
water.
And Gail, all our engineers are exempt. So you're only seeing the 40 hours a week. You're not seeing the stuff weekends and getting taken home to keep up with it. So you're probably seeing about half of it.
Okay. Councilmember Moran?
Yes, I'm just wondering if there are any issues with spelling. These can be fixed after this gets approved, right?
Yes, I saw that.
Okay. Just checking. Thank you.
Councilman Smart?
Yeah, I think the end of Gail's question sort of asked mine, which is, will be a little more specific though. I mean, is there a reflection of a decrease in need for the engineering department
So-
since they costed it out here in this other department instead?
No, the way, especially the engineering staff and generally the public works staff, as we build the budget, we kind of estimate where they're going to spend their time. So, and for example, what you don't see here is the leftover money from the utility funds. Where we will see that is it's probably in about March of 21, we'll do a true up of where the beginning balance is. And so that beginning balance will more likely be higher for those other funds. So, but in this case, the state requires us, as far as appropriations go, like for a budget, appropriations cannot go above, or the expenditures cannot go above the appropriations. So this is our way of truing it up like before the end of the biennium. But where we'll true up the beginning balances in March, and you'll see those excesses will be all bundled in, but it'll be in your utility funds. Probably won't see a lot in the street fund, but and your capital projects. You'll see those beginning balances change from what was predicted in our budget. Because when we went through the 21-22 budget, we were estimating those beginning balances, and those will go in true up, and that's where you'll see the change.
Okay, I just want to just trying to calculate in my mind that, to make sure that we're not providing additional funds, sorry, Roscoe, to the Public Works Department that we didn't actually allocate or intend for them to spend. I mean, I think I've got it. So I appreciate that explanation. Thank you.
Yeah, the clear thing is new development is charged for a service. So that's not put on the existing residents. So these developers come in, they're charged for our services. What you don't see is you see a savings in the water and sewer and some of these other funds, but that's also work that didn't get done, that needed to get done.
Yeah.
So
Right.
When we hire these other engineers, if I can find them, there'll be work getting done and you'll see that. But again, a lot of this is a true up. We do it every year. We try to estimate, it's tough, but we do it conservatively and make sure people's times are charged where they're supposed to be, where they're actually working on these things.
Looks good.
Councilman Bloom?
Yeah, I've been spending way too much time on garbage, so I looked at the garbage account, and I guess my question comes down to is the proportions don't match the previous budgeted numbers. Basically we have a 10% the 10% tax of the increased collection going to the internal and external assessments, but that wasn't what the breakdown was in the original budgeted numbers. So I guess my question comes down to is, and also the numbers are very, very round in my mind.
That is actually true. It is round. It's a budget numbers are estimates. And so this was purely running a very rough estimate, and I rounded everything. But there has been, so when we're increasing the number of homes and the number of services, we're seeing an increase in the number supplied. And remember, these changes are covering 2 years worth of information. So this is increases over a 2-year thing. And yes, it was purely estimated, but it's a close estimation.
And a lot of them could have been just this 1 year, so there's less tax applied. So that would make sense. Okay.
I just figured that would all get trued up at the end, right?
Yes, it does. But again, I go with the state laws of us not being able to. So if I was over by 1 penny in the 405 fund, that would be very wrong. So
no, as long as the two funds have to balance, it just simply,
yes.
You know, when I see 1 or 2 significant digits, my heart goes out to being happy.
Yeah. Okay.
Very good. Thank you, Aaron. Appreciate that. So council, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, please. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, council. Thank you, Aaron. And we have no unfinished business this evening, nor do we have any new business. So this is the time where we'll open it up for citizen public comment. So if you would like to raise your virtual hand, if you'd like to address council, please do so. Or if you're by way of phone, *9. I see no one. Do you see anybody? Stephanie?
I do not see anyone with their hand raised, no.
And we'll move on to staff, council announcements, reports, and comments. Staff, if you have anything to address this evening, go ahead and raise your hand, flash me down, wave at me.
I do.
Stephanie, go ahead.
So I just wanted to update council. So I have iPads that it's taken me longer than anticipated to get set up, but I will need to meet with each of you to get them set up specifically for you. So I'm thinking probably after the holidays, we can set up some appointments to meet so you can get your email and calendars and everything set up on them, kind of go over a quick tutorial, and then hopefully have them implemented for the new year.
Okay, very good, Stephanie. Thank you. And Roscoe.
Thank you, Mayor. Just an update. Gail kind of was asking about engineer. So yeah, we lost Danielle back in May. So it's been, I want to tell you, it's been 8 short months of being shorthanded, but it's not the case. It's been no fun. But happy to report that Monday we have our engineering manager starting. We were able to, Richland stole Danielle from us, so we returned the favor, so to say. And so Julie West will be starting for us on Monday. She comes to the city with a little over 20 years experience. And so we're excited to have her on board. So you'll see her at a future council meeting. She brings a lot of experience. She's City of Richland, DOT, and private consultant. She's got a real rounded background and it's going to fit the team well. So we're excited to have her start on Monday. So.
All right. And I'll thank Roscoe. He's rearranged his entire Christmas vacation schedule around all the other staff members to make sure that when Julie starts, there's somebody here to guide her through the process. So thank you, Roscoe, for making that sacrifice with your family and your vacation schedule to do so. Any other staff members this evening? Okay. Seeing none. Council, does anybody have any comments this evening?
I have a quick comment, Mayor and Council.
Certainly.
Sorry, I jumped the gun there, but I'll go real quick anyway. I just was out on a cold night, a couple nights back. It was like 28 degrees. And if you're curious how well your mask fits, it's an excellent test. Go outside with a flashlight in the dark, breathe normally, and have somebody watch to see how much hot air you're producing. And I found that I had significant leakage around the sides and the top, all over the place. So as a matter of fact, I had so much leakage that I figured I've actually never worn a mask in reality. That's what I've just determined. And I'm probably sure that that's true for just about everybody else who doesn't have one of those fancy, you know, N95s with the foam fits and all of that. So it's a great way to check to see just how much exhaust you're spreading to the world. Thank you for the cold weather, I guess, for that, because it's a great visualization. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Ms. Moran?
Thank you. Yes. There was a meeting of our subcommittee from BFCOG of the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy Subcommittee. We met on December 8th, and we just went over the basics of what we thought this subcommittee was going to be. There might be some changes in who is on the committee. It might go more in the direction of like the technical advisory committee is in, where it might be more staff members, but we're kind of working around that and figuring out what we want to do. Other than that, I just want to give a big shout out to all of our healthcare workers out in the Tri-Cities. They have been doing amazing work with not always everybody appreciative of what they're doing. So thank you, and you're really saving some lives, literally, out there. And I hope that everybody has a good holiday season.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know who was up next, but I'll just go ahead and go across the screen. Councilman Bloom?
Yes, Rebecca Frankic, who used to be on Pasco City Council, is Derek Dietrich picked her up as a part-time waste government liaison. And so she's trying to coordinate with, I've been talking with her over the potential changes to our recycle. As Roscoe framed it, I lost another hour today online with ecology. The only thing interesting I got out of it was that there is a method of actually recycling styrofoam. There's a company that turns it back into styrene down in Oregon. And the reason it came up was all the COVID vaccines are coming back in styrofoam. And so the concern was we were about to be overwhelmed with styrofoam. And with Christmas, I think we're always overwhelmed with styrofoam. But other than that, Rebecca seems very engaged and learning. And we'll be setting up the meeting I spoke to the mayor and Roscoe about to go over proposals to simplify currently most of our recycling is not really recycling. It is just collecting another way of collecting a different segment of the garbage. And so we have to get it right if we're going to actually get it recycled. So.
Yep. Thank you, Richard. Gail?
I don't really have a report. I've been kind of keeping up with Habitat, checking in with them. I still think they're trying to do something out here. I just wanted to ask the chief if you found the owner of the engine that fell off. Did you find the owner? No?
Yes, we did.
Okay. Because I had a hint, so I was going to tell you, not on this, but okay, thanks.
I'm going to have to find out that one offline from you, Gail. Sounds interesting.
I saw that one on the side of the road that night when the officer was checking it out, and it looked like a sad sight.
Yeah. All right. And okay, so I don't see anybody else this evening. I'll touch base on a couple of things. Give you a quick update on what the city managers, administrators have been working with Ben Franklin Health District. Obviously, everybody's aware that the vaccines have become available to the states. The state of Washington has received 62,400 vaccines, and the allotted amount coming to Benton County, 1,950 doses of the vaccine. We've got about 3,000, I believe, healthcare providers, if I'm correct to what I heard today. So we're not close to getting our healthcare providers protected. But there's going to be more coming each week as this ramps up. Surprisingly enough, the Ben Franklin Health District does not coordinate any of the distribution of the vaccine. Healthcare providers apply through the state to receive the vaccine and distribute the vaccine through their programs. Richland, Pasco, Kennewick, West Richland all use the same healthcare provider for that particular service. But we found it kind of odd that our Ben Franklin Health District was not involved in that process, nor did they have much knowledge of how it works. So this is another chapter of COVID and how to and what to do. So we're all learning, and we're getting some more assistance from the state health district or health board to understand the process. But it's been a little frustrating, but we'll get through it. Cadillac's the only one that has received any of the vaccine, and they've got it stored in their distribution cold sub-zero freezer. So I'll share with you more when we find out what the heck's going on and who's going to get it and when. Unfortunately, it's not much more information than that other than mass confusion from our side of the fence trying to figure it out. So been a little frustrating. And then another thing that I have neglected to do, and I apologize to Mr. Slade for this, but I needed to make recognition. Usually you would see the Department of Ecology come and present this to the city council. And again, the wastewater treatment plant has received the 2019 Wastewater Treatment Plant Outstanding Performance Award. Now, while you've got 300 wastewater treatment plants statewide, Roscoe's team is only one of the 125 that completed full compliance of the National Pollutant Discharge Emission System, which is NPDES permit for 2019. And this is an exceptional honor for these people to do this when you consider you got 24 hours a day and 365 days a year of operating plant to come up with 100% compliance. And so with that, the boys get another plaque to hang on the wall there. Roscoe, how many more do you got over there? I mean, he's got them stacked up and they're in boxes underneath the desk and all those things. So these guys really rock it down there. Now, so we can only thank them for what they do and make sure it flows downhill and not uphill, right, Roscoe? Okay, so those were the two things that I had this evening. So with that, one other thing I need to pulse council. Unfortunately, we have one item that we need to address yet before the end of the year, and that's going to be the Greenbrook wetland dedication. So I need to find out from you if anybody has time later this week, or is it best just to go to the next Tuesday? I mean, that's running into close to the holiday season, but it's going to be a quick in and out deal. So if anybody is available for Thursday of this week, we could go that day, or we could do Tuesday next week. What's a preference for all of you folks for a quick in and out? Tuesday or Thursday, excuse me, Thursday this week?
I'm open Thursday.
Thursday? Yes, I got a yes card. Okay, here comes Mayor Pro Tem Breaks yes card. All right, so if Thursday will work, we'll go ahead and get that notice out, Stephanie, to the public as well as to the council, and is 5:30 good for everybody so we can get in and out?
5 or 5:30 is fine with me.
5 or 5:30 would work for me as well.
Kate,
I have a thing from 5 until 6:30.
if you need to be absent, that's not a problem. This is pretty much just a housekeeping gig that we've got going on.
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
Okay. So let's just go ahead and set it for 5, Stephanie.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, apologize for that, just hiccup in process, but that should take care of it for the year. And so I won't go into the thank you for enjoy, have Christmas, a good Christmas this Thursday. I'm just going to tell everybody to have a good Christmas, enjoy everybody with families and no friends. And we'll see you Thursday for a quick in and out. And with that, I will go ahead and adjourn this meeting at 7:15. Thank you, council. Thank you, staff. Appreciate it.
Merry Christmas.
Thanks, everyone.
Brent, I had a quick question for you.
Oh, yeah.
On the COVID, are there, I know my daughter-in-law, she's a manager over at Parkview, and she said something that they were getting the vaccines, but staff, it's their choice, but I thought they were going to the nursing homes first. It's not clear yet. The nursing homes and the
the first people that are gonna, I have got, as a matter of fact, I will have Stephanie send this out. I have phase 1, 2, 3, and 4
of the vaccines.
Phase 1A is your high risk workers and healthcare settings, and then high risk first responders. And then there's a phase 1B, a 1C, then it moves over to phase 2. So I'll go ahead and ask Stephanie to send this one out to you, so you can kind of get an idea. And that's some of the confusion that we've got going on. Like I said, this is another chapter in the book of COVID. So I'll try to keep you up to speed as best I can, but it's been so dang confusing for me and every other city manager and county administrator that we're still trying to understand it. So I'll do the best I can to keep you all up to speed, but I'll send this phasing out for you to better understand it.
Okay.
No executive session tonight?
No, sir. We have no executive session.
Thank you.
So there will be no action to follow.
Great.
Okay, perfect.
Everybody.
Thanks, team. Take care.
Have a good rest of
Right.
Hanukkah and holiday season and New Year.